So if you've been following this series of videos or you're taking my Hebrew course on Udemy using the book of Jonah to learn Hebrew, we have been doing a number of videos on the Hiph'il or H causative stem. And so we want to finish up that series now with the imperative. Now there are other Hiph'il forms that we haven't covered, particularly the infinitive. That's pretty easy. We'll catch that as we end the course. But I want to summarize real quickly here what the second person singular and plural imperative looks like in the Hiph'il stem for strong verbs. Now, you can also make a command in the third person using the jussive. You can make a command in the first person using the cohortative. We want to talk about the imperative proper in this video. That is the second person. So what do we notice here about the command? So this would be second masculine singular. You, singular guy, kill somebody, cause somebody to kill somebody. Or you girl, cause somebody to kill somebody. Or you, hey, you guys, cause them to kill somebody, and so forth. It's a little wooden the way I'm talking about it. You really need to look up for each word in the dictionary what that particular word means in the Hiph'il stem. It's not always as straightforward as causative. But so what do we notice about here? Well, notice that all these imperatives begin with a hey. And so that makes sense. It's the H stem. It's the Hiph'il stem. And it begins with a hey. So that's easy, right? Notice also that all of these forms of the Hiph'il imperative have a patak under the hey. Remember, quite recently, we had a video on the Hiph'il imperfect. And what was the telltale sign, or one of the telltale signs of the Hiph'il imperfect? There was a patak under the performative. And so we have pataks under the performative. Another telltale sign of the Hiph'il, not always, but often, is a hirik yod after the second consonant of a strong verb. And so you'll notice that the second masculine plural and the second feminine singular both have a hirik yod. In the other cases, we have a sere. And in the video I did just immediately previous to this from, I think it was Jonah 3, 7, I forget, somewhere in there, 6, 7. But basically we saw that sometimes the hirik yod downshifts into the sere. They're both IE class vowels. They're in the family. And so we have a sere here in the second masculine singular, and we have a sere in the second feminine plural. So if you don't memorize it, you can still kind of figure it out using the context and using these kinds of, I know that Hiph'il sometimes do this. Maybe I don't have it completely memorized every time it does this, but I have a general sense, patak under the performative, there's an H on the front, sere, hirik yod, you can kind of figure it out. You'll notice that these are a lot like the imperfect forms too. So like the second masculine singular imperfect is tiktol. So the vowels aren't quite right, but you've got the same basic consonants. Tiktali is the second feminine singular imperfect, so we've got an e on the end. And then the u, tiktalu, is the second masculine plural, and we've got a u on the end. And then tiktolna is the second feminine plural, and we've got a na on the end. So actually, there's a lot of stuff here that should be familiar. You don't have to necessarily memorize everything to be able to translate it, because you can kind of figure it out. So again, what are the three kind of hints here? The hey on the front, H stem, the patak under the hey, H stem, the hirik yod or sere after the second strong consonant, H stem. Last thing before we end this video, notice that the H participle has the characteristic hirik yod after the second consonant. It has the characteristic patak under the performative, and as you will see, participles outside of the call stem, outside of the G stem, participles will often begin with a mem. I don't know whether we've noticed that before. I think maybe there was a verse where we saw that, but let me just add that to our list of things to look for. If you got more than 3 letters and it begins with a mem, you might be looking at a participle in one of the other stems, like a H stem or a D stem. Well, there you have it, the Hiph'il imperative.